Yellowstone National Park in the United States is home to the Yellowstone Caldera, also known as the Yellowstone Supervolcano. The massive magma chamber that lies beneath it has generated so much heat that it's responsible for not just geothermal features like geysers and hot springs, but 3 major eruptions in the past that each unleashed more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash and rock into the atmosphere. A 4th eruption is statistically overdue, and while the consequences would be dire for nearby states, at least some scientists believe that it wouldn't necessarily spell doom for the entire planet. But there are other supervolcanoes around the world that could erupt next, and their effects would be far more catastrophic. Here are 5 supervolcanoes that could end all human life on Earth. Yellowstone, one of the most famous supervolcanoes in the world. While the potential damage from another eruption at Yellowstone National Park would be considerable, the truth is that this caldera is getting a lot of attention because it's sitting right in the backyard of the United States. If it were located anywhere else, it might not be the subject of much scientific study at all. Yellowstone has already erupted 3 times in the past 2.1 million years, with the most recent occurrence coming 640,000 years ago. Each of these events was the result of a magma chamber that was created when the North American plate moved atop a hot spot in the Earth's mantle. While there are signs that the magma chamber is once again growing beneath Yellowstone, the odds of an eruption in any given year are extremely low. However, when it does erupt again, it will be devastating. According to the United States Geological Survey, or USGS, a major eruption at Yellowstone could send 600 billion cubic meters of ash and pumice within 100 kilometers of the park, while smaller amounts would travel much farther. This would likely bury large portions of Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho under thick layers of volcanic debris and put millions of people at risk. While such an event would be devastating to those living nearby, it wouldn't cause global devastation. At worst, it would have some effect on global temperatures due to the ash blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface of the Earth. However, the most likely scenario is that a 4th eruption at Yellowstone wouldn't pose a serious threat to human civilization. Long Valley Caldera, California. The Long Valley Caldera in eastern California is one of the largest known volcanic depressions on Earth. Its history dates back more than 700,000 years. The first eruption was so violent that it left behind a crater now known as the Gardner Basin. Another major eruption, 290,000 years ago, formed the Inyo craters, and the most recent major eruption was 76,000 years ago and left behind the current caldera. Long Valley is still considered active and could erupt again at some point in the future. While the region is largely unpopulated, a major eruption could affect millions of people who live close by in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Ash and pumice would cover parts of central and southern California, killing off most plant life in its path and contaminating water sources. While California has plenty of water stored in reservoirs, these would eventually become contaminated by volcanic debris. This would force millions of people to relocate, not just from California, but from other western states as well. The real danger of a super eruption at Long Valley would come from the fine ash that would be thrown into the atmosphere. These particles would block sunlight and lead to a decade or more of darkness. Temperatures across the northern hemisphere would plummet, leading to the collapse of agriculture worldwide. Mount Toba, Indonesia. The supervolcano Mount Toba is located on the Indonesian island of Sumatra. It contains a massive magma chamber that extends more than 30 kilometers below the surface. Eruptions at Mount Toba have occurred sporadically throughout the past 500,000 years, including the largest known eruption in the past 2 million years. This took place 74,000 years ago and is believed to have ejected more than 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and rock. The eruption had such a massive effect on the climate that it caused what's known as the Toba catastrophe theory. This theory suggests that the eruption may have led to an ice age and played a role in the near extinction of several animal species, including humans. While the eruption was huge, evidence now suggests that it didn't have as much of a negative effect on humans as once thought. There is little evidence that it significantly affected the course of human evolution. Mount Toba is still considered very active, and its next eruption is long overdue. Unlike the previous supervolcanoes on this list, the effects of another eruption here would be felt around the entire globe. The ash and aerosols ejected into the atmosphere would circulate around the world and block out the sun for months or even years. As a result, global temperatures would drop drastically, leading to widespread crop failure and famine. La Garita Caldera, Colorado. The La Garita Caldera in southern Colorado is the site of the most violent eruption in North American history. It occurred 27.8 million years ago and unleashed roughly 5,000 cubic kilometers of ash and rock. Because it happened so long ago, the only evidence of the eruption is a 12 by 18 kilometer caldera and a layer of ash that's more than 30 centimeters thick. While the surrounding area is largely uninhabited today, if it were to erupt again, it would be very dangerous for nearby communities. Any survivors would face starvation as the ash killed off all plant life in the region. Some of the ash would be thrown into the atmosphere and remain there for years, blocking out the sun and causing global cooling. However, the most dangerous aspect of the eruption would be the pyroclastic flows. These fast-moving currents of hot gas and solid debris would race down the valleys, incinerating everything in their path. Campi Flegrei, Italy. Campi Flegrei is a caldera located near Naples, Italy. It's actually a collection of overlapping calderas that have formed over the past 39,000 years. The largest of these is the caldera of Astroni, which formed 12,000 years ago. Campi Flegrei is considered to be one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world because of how close it sits to one of the most densely populated areas in Europe. A direct hit from a pyroclastic flow would devastate the city of Naples and other nearby population centers. Millions of people would either be killed outright or forced to flee their homes. While some refugees would no doubt try to head south, they would soon find themselves blocked by yet another caldera. Mount Vesuvius, home to one of the most infamous eruptions in history, is located just 25 kilometers north of Campi Flegrei. While it's possible that both calderas could erupt at the same time, Mount Vesuvius is much less active than Campi Flegrei and is unlikely to blow anytime soon. Campi Flegrei, on the other hand, is overdue for a major eruption. While it hasn't erupted in nearly 2,000 years, scientists are keeping a close eye on it. There have already been significant increases in seismic activity, and researchers have noted that the ground beneath the caldera has risen by as much as 10 centimeters in some places. Should it erupt, the Naples area would be utterly devastated. The ash and pumice would wipe out all plant life and contaminate the water supply. Most of those who survived the initial blast would die of starvation within weeks. The rest would succumb to disease as the dead bodies began to decay. Survivors outside of the immediate blast zone would be plagued by respiratory problems brought on by inhaling volcanic ash. Eventually, however, life would return to normal and the area would slowly recover. If any of these supervolcanoes were to erupt, the effects would be felt worldwide. Whether it would lead to the extinction of humanity, however, is debatable. What's not debatable is that a super eruption at any of these locations would cause massive devastation in the surrounding areas. Now watch. How do we know the Earth is round? Or check out, will the Earth ever end?